Battery low. What's up, everybody? Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. My name is Ahmed Dents, Director of Venue Experience and Artistic Associate here at San Diego Repertory Theatre, and welcome back to We Are Listening. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, Jacole, I can see you. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Again, everybody, my name is Ahmed Dents, Director of Venue Experience and Artistic Associate at San Diego Repertory Theatre. Welcome back to We Are Listening. We have been gone too long. This is our show about Black excellence in theater and performing arts. Remember, we are not the other. We are the standard. We've been here. We're going to be here, and we're going to keep doing this thing. So thank you very much for joining us. We have switched to a once a month format, but we got a trick in the bag for that as well. As we get going, let me go ahead and bring on my co-host. Y'all know who she is. She is the Director of Arts Engagement and In-House Casting at La Jolla Playhouse. Please welcome Jacole Kitchen back to We Are Listening. What's up, Jacole?
Hey, Ahmed. Hey, everybody. I didn't realize how happy I was to be back until I saw that countdown clock going, and the countdown clock is really fancy. But I just started smiling. I'm so happy to be back. I'm so happy that this show continues. I'm happy to be back talking to Stephanie. I'm so happy to be back. Hey, y'all.
Yeah. So what do you think of the new digs? I told you I had some new We Are Listening digs for us, you know what I mean, that we could check out and kind of chill out in. What you think of the new virtual studio?
I like it. I like the new studio. Feeling fancy.
That's what I'm talking about. Before we get started, Jacole, let's give a couple of shout outs real quick. I want to give a shout out to Sharisa Oy. Sharisa, who's no longer with the rep, was basically our first producer who kept this thing on the rails. Want to give a shout out to Sharisa. She has moved on to bigger and better things, along with the brand new baby boy. So we want to give a big shout out to Sharisa. And Sharisa, if you're listening or if you're listening to this in the future, what's up? We miss you. We hope you and the family are doing great. Also want to give a shout out to AJ, who I believe is watching right now. AJ is also our producer who keeps things running. AJ has had a lot of work to do lately, so I didn't even want to bother her with coming in to try to run this show right now. I know she would have if I asked her, but I didn't want to bother her. So AJ, thank you to you. We greatly appreciate it. I'm just stepping into my old DJ mode here and doing and running the board. So it's all good. I also want to give a shout out to our silent partner in crime, Mr. Freedom Bradley Ballantyne, our Associate Artistic Director at the Old Globe, Director of Arts Engagement. Shout out to you, Freedom. And I also want to give a big shout out to, it was his last day on Friday, former San Diego Repertory Theatre Managing Director, Larry Aldridge. Thank you for the 14 years of service here at the Rep, Larry. We know we are going to see you around. Thank you for everything you did. And also thank you for being such a fierce advocate for We Are Listening. So I just wanted to give those quick shout outs. And I'm going to turn things over to Jacole. Jacole, let me know what's going on. What's happening over at the Playhouse Way? What announcements you got?
No, you're saying we're going to see you around to Larry. I already saw him around Friday night. I saw him at Diversionary. I was like, how does it feel? You're done. You're done. How does it feel? He's like, it feels like I'm going to a show after work. So we'll see. Maybe he feels a little differently today, Larry, if you're watching. I hope today, this Monday, feels a little different. And that you all just got to sleep in. Yes, shout out to the super fans. I can't see all of you. The setup is different for me now because I got this fancy studio and thing. So I can't see everybody, but shout out to the super fans. I know you all are here. I know that you have been waiting for this to come back. Thank you for your continued support. Oh, crap city. My headphones just went out. Can you still hear me?
Yeah. It happens every time. Happens with me too.
Oh, crap. I can't hear you. So we'll figure this out.
Okay.
So as long as you can,
I can hear you.
Why don't you start giving your announcements, Ahmed, and I'm going to figure out this sound thing.
Okay, I will do that. Big shout out to AJ, who says she's here always. There you go, AJ. Also shout out to my man, Mr. Herbert Seguenza. Thank you for watching. Thank you, everybody, for being here. So again, We Are Listening. We are here. We have switched to a once a month format. We're back in live theater and we're coming on Mondays because we know Monday is a day that usually everybody is dark, and it just makes it better for us. It makes it better that we don't bump into anybody else's or we try not to bump into anybody else's performances. And plus, most of us, like I said, it's a dark day in the evening, so we have more time to do this. So thank you guys for joining us. We are switching this to once a month as far as live guests. Quick announcement I do want to make: I will be adding, even though we're going to once a month, I am still going to be adding another element to We Are Listening. I'm going to call it We Are Listening Notes. So every other week, like 2 weeks from now, we'll come with a real quick episode to where I'll just be highlighting some Black theater history. And I think to kick off the first one in 2 weeks, a question that comes up often is, should a theater and can a theater be a social justice organization as well as an arts organization? And I say the answer is absolutely yes. And in that first episode of We Are Listening Notes, I will talk about that by focusing on Lorraine Hansberry. So that'll be coming up in 2 weeks. So I will definitely be letting y'all know when that's going to drop on social media. I have email addresses for everybody who was registering on Zoom. If you would like to be part of that email list, just send me an email, adents@sdrep.org. It'll be here running on the Chiron on the bottom, and also head over to sdrep.org/listening. And you will see my email address on the contact page. Jacole, are you back? Are you ready? Are you good? Now I can't hear you.
Oh, that's because I have muted, you see. So whatever you thought I just mouthed. Okay, you didn't. Hi, Susie. So glad to have you back. Okay, so real quick. Thank you for being with me. We're going to charge those little earbuds up and see what happens. But going on at La Jolla Playhouse, we are back. We just closed one show. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But we already got the next one up and running, To the Yellow House by Kimber Lee, directed by Neil Keller. This cast is phenomenal. It is a Vincent van Gogh story like you have never seen or been told. It's spectacular, running November 16th through December 12th. Just want to also let you know that we have our Spotlight On classes that have started back up again. We have classes in directing, acting, and playwriting. There is still space available. Go to lajollaplayhouse.org. All Spotlight On classes are happening via Zoom, so you can take classes with just renowned teaching artists, right from your own home in acting, directing, and playwriting. And because, we're the Playhouse, we can't just do things on stage. We're streaming, y'all. You can see Playhouse Productions Come From Away is currently streaming on Apple TV. Diana, which didn't get to have its official opening on Broadway, but y'all can see it on Netflix until it comes back on Broadway, which is rehearsing right now. And then Pick Me Last, directed by yours truly, is still available to stream on your website for families, for schools, for any young people who you think will love it. That's what we've got going on at the Playhouse. But let's get to this conversation. Ahmed, back to you.
Yes, thank you, Jacole. Also want everybody to know, happening here at the Rep right now, this is the last week. Mother Road is being performed on the Lyceum stage. It closes this Sunday at 2 p.m. It is an excellent play by Octavio Solis, directed by Sam Woodhouse. Again, it closes this Sunday. Please get out here and check it out. Put it on the list of one of the things that you want to see this week. And then make sure you get on over to the Old Globe and check out the Shutter Sisters. That is running through, as it's running across the screen right now. It is written by Kimber Lee, and it is running from November.
No, that's To the Yellow House.
That's the Yellow House. Forgive me. I'm all mixed. See, getting a new studio, I don't even know my way around the house.
Here we go. Okay, there it is.
Okay,
there it is.
Here
there
it
it
comes.
is.
Shutter Sisters by Manza Ra, playing through November 7th, 2021 at the Old Globe. Head on over to the oldglobe.org. Get your tickets. Head on over to lajollaplayhouse.org. Get your tickets for what's happening there. Head on over to sdrep.org. Get your tickets for what's happening here. And that's enough announcements, right, Jacole? I think that's
too fancy for our own good over here.
Yeah, we do too much sometimes. We're just gonna get. So let's just go ahead and get in to what we're doing. It's really good. It's really good to be back. We want to go ahead and bring on our guest for tonight, fresh off a spectacular run of the Garden at La Jolla Playhouse. She is a 2021 recipient of the League of Professional Women's Theater Lee Reynolds Award. She's also the recipient of the Obie Award for the Shaniqua Chronicles, a TCG Fox Foundation Resident Actor Fellowship as Distinguished Artist. Her TV credits include Luke Cage, which I got to ask about because you know me and my Marvel mind. When I see something Marvel, my mind goes there. Of Luke Cage, The Last OG, Bull, Blue Buzz, Law and Order. She's been doing a bunch of work during the pandemic as well. We're going to talk to her about it right now. Please, everybody, welcome to We Are Listening, Stephanie Berry. Hey, Stephanie, how you doing?
You know what? y'all promised me, or Jacole promised me for a glass of wine. That's what she said that we were. No, you did, and I don't see
It didn't make it there yet, Stephanie. That box didn't make it.
No, it did not.
I sent it. It had a bottle, and glasses. Man,
I don't know.
All right,
have my glass of red wine.
I'm gonna make some phone calls. Y'all talk.
Right.
I'm gonna sort this out.
Well, Stephanie, while we getting your wine order on the way, we're gonna get your own personal sommelier over there as well. Make sure they take care of you. While we're waiting for that to happen, again, welcome to We Are Listening. Thank you for being our first guest back off hiatus.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And as we do, and like I said, as brief as you want it to be, we love for our guests to hear. We love for our listeners and watchers to hear from our guests themselves a little bit about themselves. If you could please, as long or as short as you would like, give us a brief introduction of Stephanie Berry.
Oh, Lord, that's a hard question. No, because I'm still trying to figure it out. And what I'm learning is that it is a lifelong journey. I reach plateaus when I learn, I go, oh, that's who I am. Oh, I never recognized that gift. Oh, I never owned up to that shortcoming. And just admit it, embrace it, and ask for help. That's the play. So that's the Stephanie Berry now. I've finally come to a place to embrace my gifts and not be downplay myself nor brag, but know that it is a gift that I am just a vehicle for. So I can be humble. And I can embrace it and thank it and let it shine. And then on the other hand, all the things that I didn't like about myself or shortcomings or poor judgment, I don't beat myself up anymore. I go, okay, I don't particularly care for that. Let me embrace it. Where does it fit? Where does it not? And maybe just ask for help or forgiveness. But I'm a teacher first. I worked for the New York City Board. I was a licensed Board of Education teacher for many years. I was a language arts teacher. And I went to school for both. I had a double major, journalism and dance. And I went to graduate school also for dance ed. So it's interesting, how am I an actor? That was a very interesting journey. But being involved in social justice and political activity has always been a piece of my life. And that's because it's the family I grew up in. That's how we were raised. My mother would stop on the street and break up fights with gang members. And I'm almost 5'8". My mother's 5'3".
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So can you talk just a little bit about that? You set it up so beautifully, the journey to becoming an actor. Like, how did it go from journalism and dance to, as I put it on my Facebook today,
honey,
legend
I
of American theater?
I would never, because I was such a, I called myself a scatterbrain, chaotic. I guess it's just hard for me to focus, on one thing. But, I can identify that spine, and that spine is social justice and whatever tool I could use, to bring history, a message, fairness, to others. Frequently throughout my life, I've been one who was very intimidated by confrontation or speaking up for myself, but let it be someone else, the boxing gloves are on and I'm up. Yeah. And I'm learning to balance that out because my entity is just as important as any other entity, But I have a long history in the movement. I don't know if I want to talk about that, but that certainly seasoned me,
Sure. So before we get into the deep stuff, and I'm so excited to get into this conversation. For San Diego audiences, you recognize Stephanie Berry coming fresh off of the production of The Garden at La Jolla Playhouse, co-pro co-production with Baltimore Stage, but it was the co-pro that wasn't, as we like to say, the two-hander co-pro that had more people on board than a co-pro ever should. But that's a whole different conversation as well. But the Garden was the first show back for La Jolla Playhouse live. It was one of the first shows back, period, to be welcoming audiences back. How was that for you, Stephanie, after 15 months, almost a year and a half away from live performance? How was that for you coming back?
Two things. Well, once I came back, it felt like I hadn't missed a beat in a way. When I left teaching in the public school systems, I was able to do a regional theater job once a year when I was teaching. The principal of my school would allow me to do that, which was a very unusual arrangement. And my students would actually write me all these letters while I was away, and anyway. But then after that, I worked fairly consistently after I left the school system, which was hard to do. I was very torn. It's challenging. Teaching is one of the most difficult, underrated jobs that there are. It is not your 6 hours of teaching. It is 24/7. But I was a single parent, and I had a child young. And so when she went to college, that's when I had made the decision I would leave and take that leap. So when I came to La Jolla, I really, it's like an old friend that you have a connection, and you don't see them for years, and then you see them and it feels like you didn't miss a beat. So I kind of felt that. I was hungry and to get back on a stage because of the energy. I did a few Zoom productions, but you miss that energy, that unseen energy that is exchanged between not only the actors, but the audience.
Yeah.
And that's why every show is a teeny bit different, because of the vibrations are different from who is sitting in the seats out there. Is the moon out? Is it raining out? All of that impacts the vibrations that you breathe in and you move through. So it was exciting to be back on the stage. And I didn't feel like I was gone that long in those moments.
Right.
Oh, that year and a half in the house here. Oh my God. Whew.
How did you keep yourself sane as an artist over that period of time?
I feel very, very blessed. And I was talking to an artist last night who just graduated, and my nephew told him to call me for advice. And I hardly advised him about the industry or the business at all. He graduated from a great school. A good friend of mine was head of the department, purchase. Dean Irby was the head. I was like, call Dean, Trezana Beverly, those was they know more than me. But I tried to share something about becoming a whole person and filling your soul. So, and what do you desire, to be an artist or just Hollywood? Mm-hmm. I was very blessed. I have a group of women that we started a book club 25 years ago. And I remember because I used to bring my godbaby, who's a writer here in California. But anyway, I used to bring her to the meetings when she was little. That's why I know it's 25 years old. Now, half the time we don't read the books. Sometimes we have sat up and drank wine all night, cutting the fool. But during COVID, we had one day a week was called check-in. And we would really try to look each other in the eye and because some are married and some are alone, and some are alone and not doing well health-wise. What do you need? Talk to me. What is it? Do you need to talk privately to so-and-so or so-and-so? And we would go around in a circle. We might send things, have it delivered to that person's house. Yeah. Every birthday during COVID, we had a party on Zoom, and you had to dress up. And I was so depressed around my birthday. I did not want to have a party. I was pissed. And they made me dress up. And you get to choose the meal you want. Everyone chips in and has it delivered. And then everyone else has to have wine, your favorite drink, a piece of cake. And of course, everybody's cake is different. And someone puts together music and you have to dance. I like salsa. So my friends who were married, their husbands had to dance with me on the Zoom. Someone else wanted a spoken word. And even if you never recite, and these aren't artists, this is a very eclectic group of women.
Yeah.
There may be 2 artists in the group, but the rest are, banker, lawyer, nurse, a little bit of everybody. And so there are about a dozen of us, 8 to 12 would be there. So at least once a month, we had a slamming birthday party. Dancing, carrying on, whatever the theme was.
Yes.
Poetry reading. So we had to speak out. We read a lot. So I met with them a lot. We read Cass. We read the entire 1619 Project. We read Bell Hooks, Isabella Allende.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yes. Don't tell them I didn't read that one.
But that's how every good book club is supposed to.
And the discussions were, they were like, I'm like, darn, we're not in graduate school. So I survived through the community of close friends, and we were very active via Zoom. Some of us would meet in the park and do a walk with our masks and our shields. I live near Riverside, so, I had a tight community. And then my family, we did weekly Zooms, the family Zoom.
That's one thing I love so much about, obviously there's a lot of devastation that came with the pandemic. There's so much grief and sadness and death, but there are also so many amazing things that came out of this period of time. These forced periods of connection, but for you to, and I imagine these women, are they all in one place or are they all spread out?
Oh no, they're all over.
To get to celebrate everybody's birthdays together, and this show is a product of that too. It was, I don't know, had we not had the COVID shutdown and then the social reckonings that we did, and just the conversations and the way that you're talking, just the community that was created and the conversations that are happening, that we're talking in such a more real way. I'm somebody that I don't love small talk anyway. If we're going to have a conversation, let's talk about some shit. Yes. But I love that that's what's happening now. And whether it's personally or within the institutions, real conversations are happening, and it's so necessary.
Well, they've been, I hate to use the word forced, but they've been forced by the circumstances, but the beauty is that they will carry on.
Yeah.
Or they certainly seem to be. I'm going to one of our members of our circle's birthday is tomorrow. So we're having lunch tomorrow. It'll be in person.
Yeah.
So we've had a couple of in person, and whoever's birthday gets to say what their goal is that year. Each person has to chip in to help them. If someone needs to lose weight, then someone's going to pick them up on Tuesdays for the next month and do a walk. Someone else will cook a nutritious meal, whatever it is. It could,
I love this group of women. I'm like, how do I get in on these Zooms? How do I get in? No, I love this. I love everything about it. And I'm so sorry because Stephanie and I have gotten to spend some time together. I feel like we're just chatting in tech right now. So I'm gonna jump in there. I know you're doing double duty. You're on tech support.
Yeah, I'm all good. I'm the DJ tonight. I'll jump in when I need to.
Well, and yes, we got to get that voice in there. This audience would not be okay if we didn't have Ahmed's voice.
They helped me with my writing, and we invite some men. Like I said, everyone who was married, their husbands had to come and dance with me.
I love it.
On Zoom.
Hey, Stephanie, I do want to ask you, because this is something that we've all been talking about as we get back into this run of getting back into theater. You guys opened up a while before us, but we all have been in this, run to get back. Was there any, did you have any particular anxiety about theater opening back up? I mean, I know I did, but most of mine came from still, right?
Yeah, I still do. I kept thinking I was in some sci-fi movie and I'm going to wake up. And that's a frightening feeling, because I'm not just saying that to be funny. I really was feeling that. And sometimes that comes back. But we knew this was coming. Pathogens, viruses are part of the evolution of life. They've always been here. They wiped out civilizations. I guess we've never been hit this bad in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and just getting back to the being in the theater, and this is, like I said, Stephanie and I had a chance to spend a good deal of time together, because I got to come in and be part of the tech process and tech and previews. And it was such an amazing experience. And it was our first show back. Again, it's this lovely, beautiful mother-daughter story that we were telling. And it was a bunch of Black people telling the story. It was a Black playwright. It was 2 Black female actors. By the time it was all said and done, if you count me and Kimberly, the assistant director, we had 4 Black directors working on the piece. The sound designer was a Black man. The set,
who was from my neighborhood, by the way.
Which the connections on connections.
He knew my daughter, and I was like, what? He knew my daughter. They played together.
That is so, just again, the family, just that was the world that was created. Listening to you and Charlene talk about the people that you had in common and the people you knew, and then bringing Lukman into the conversation. It was just this room of family. And, even the people that weren't Black, we still had brown bodies. The brown bodies by far outnumbered the non-brown bodies in that room. And it was just such a comfortable place, going through the runs and having just this moments of creation. And I had a moment. It was our first, it was invited dress, but I felt it really almost every time I sat in the audience. It was a different show watching it with white people. And especially the first 20 minutes of that play. And I remember sitting in invited dress and going, oh, this is different. They are hearing something different. They are reacting differently to things that are being said than we have ever responded in the room, in this very safe, familial, colorful rooms that we were in. And that's so evident to me, but I'm sitting amongst them. Is that something that you feel or felt? Did you feel that in the garden? But is that something that you feel as a performer? Do you still have that same experience from the stage?
I didn't feel that particularly in the garden because I've done so much regional theater. I have performed for majority white audiences, which has personally pissed me off. And I've questioned myself. Fortunately, I do a lot of, I'm a community theater actress who happened to have transitioned without even realizing it into commercial, theater and film and television. Yeah. Just one thing would happen, then another, then another, then another, but I'm still community-based. So I have both experiences equally, but regional theater, all my audiences, you'd have a couple of Black organizations that might come. I always made an effort to bring in, Black groups and whatever. But I used to get angry at myself. What am I doing? I'm serving just white people. That's all. And then I finally realized I'm an actor, I'm a messenger. And storytelling is like the preacher's sermon. And it is part of my role in life to tell stories, share stories, so that people are humanized, people find universality in one another, and people begin to understand and perhaps change their perspective without being hammered over the head or even realizing it. And therefore, the color doesn't matter. And in a lot of respects, especially if I'm doing a play that has history in it, that this world has been neglected deliberately, then maybe it's more important that the audience is majority white.
Mm.
Now, I didn't do this at La Jolla, but almost every regional theater that I have worked in, I usually produce an event where I contact members of the Black community, either a community theater group. I try to find social justice groups and bring them together. I don't mean just to come to the play. I mean an event.
Yeah.
And every theater has allowed me to do it. And I know it costs them money. They'll look at me strangely, but it's usually around Black History Month. And I had an event at Milwaukee Rep, and they have a great bar downstairs. It was packed. You couldn't get in. So the artistic director didn't come the first time, but he came the second, and he was shocked.
Mm.
I heard that after I left, they continued that project. And people had to recite, I had a theme, but it had to do with either something you didn't know about the history of African Americans or the captured Africans in this country, or something you're curious about. And it was amazing. Of course, it was more Black people performing, and this had nothing to do with the play. We would give away tickets at the play, but this was just a community event. But the white people who would come up and read something or have a query, and of course we had a DJ, it was jamming. At Cincinnati Playhouse in the Park, I had, and there were a lot of board members came to the event, and I made everyone get up and switch tables, and you couldn't sit at a table where you knew more than two people. And
wow.
Each table had instructions, and you had, I don't remember, 20, 30 minutes to fulfill it. And so it might have been a rap song, and there were people who weren't into rap that, turn their hat, whatever, backwards, and, but I got people together. And people who thought they were very different would realize they weren't as different as they thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it doesn't bother me the way it used to. It used to, but not in some years now.
I love that. Next time we have you back, we'll have to have one of those events. That sounds amazing. And I was like, my job would have been to help you curate that. And I would have loved to curate that with you. So we'll make it happen next time you come back, for sure. For sure.
Stephanie, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I kind of alluded to that before about that's kind of the question that some people are even still asking now, right? And we see a lot of theaters as we return having problems living up to those mission statements that they so readily put out last year, and that question is about, can a theater or should a theater be a social justice organization as well as a artistic organization? My feeling is like, of course it should be, because you're in the business of telling stories and you're in the business of providing narrative. And so if you're telling stories and if you're providing narrative, well, then your stories and your narrative will have effects on people. Can you just give me kind of like what your view on that kind of question is, if you have one? Like, should an artistic, should a theater be a or can a theater be a social justice organization as well as a theatrical organization?
I don't really see the difference, because everything is political, whether you want to acknowledge that or not. It's a matter of how you present it or how you magnify that aspect or that perspective that you're dealing with a social issue. All plays are about a social issue, even if it's a fairy tale. When I was teaching regular school, and I'm not a theater teacher, I was a language arts teacher for the New York City Board of Education. And a lot of my students who were called disadvantaged, disenfranchised, this, I was like, damn, I would be anyway. So Timberlands were very, very much in style. So I had someone take off their Timberland boot because we got into a whole argument about how much they cost and how much money. I said, look, you in this program, I know your mama don't, I'm joking with them. I said, I don't either. So I picked up this Timberland boot, and for the next month, our whole, all my lesson plans were developed around that boot. What is in the boot? Every subject matter that exists is in it. Math is in the boot. How much does it weigh? What are the dimensions? What are the materials? Where did the materials come from? How many holes are in the, where you tie them up? Of writing descriptions of the boot. There's your English. There's your how can you compare it to someone, to something that helps it to come alive? Metaphors, similes. So you had English, you had geography. We did some research on some of the items that were popular. And there was an article in the Times during that time of how these 3 companies were using Latina girls 14 years old in factories working 10, 12, 14 hours a day for piddlings. There's your history. Every geography, history, current events, English, poetry, math was all in that one boot.
Wow.
Name me a play where you can't find social justice, where everything is not the play that's running right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at the Shutter Sisters.
Yeah.
You might not call it that.
Yeah. Well, and also, but yes, and you do have programs that you run through Blackberry Productions, which I love. I just love Blackberry. I think it's the best name for a production company ever. For your production company, I love it. But you said earlier you're a community theater artist, like that your roots, you're a community theater artist, but you're a community theater artist in both senses of community, that yes, you came up in community theater, but also your theater company is about community, and you have a program that you where you're linking theater and cops and kids. And can you talk a little bit about that, your cop program? What is it? Commonalities, opposites, partners, and peace.
Okay, my company that first, I don't know where you got that. I didn't know that still exists. That is extremely old. So you don't have the new website. I didn't know this existed. This is so old. Oh my goodness.
You got the one that you sent us, but that's all right. That's all right.
I didn't know it was still retrievable on the. That's interesting. Anyway,
so let's talk about this one.
The reason the company was founded, and I don't know if you know the author, you should, Aisha Rahman. She wrote Mojo and the Say So, Unfinished Women Who Cry in No Man's Land, about Charlie Parker and unwed mothers. If you don't know Aisha Rahman, you look. She passed recently. Her daughter is, who is my niece, is a renowned documentary theater, Yoruba Rich, and she just did the documentary on Breonna Taylor, and she was just nominated for an Emmy for Sit-In, the documentary about Harry Belafonte. Anyway, that's her. Her mother is she named it Blackberry Productions. And I'm sure you know the actor Keith David.
Yeah.
And we were literally in Aisha's house, me, Keith, Aisha, there was somebody, the other person has since passed, just talking, drinking our wine, laughing, cutting the fool up to wee hours. And one of the things Aisha said was, we have to take control of our own culture, our own and our own images. Stop blaming white people of how they portray us on media when you're not doing anything to control your own image. That's how the company was formed that night, and she named it. That remains at the core, of our mission. But because I do a lot of community work, I think you said Reese Green.
Yeah.
His sister is one of my closest. She's like my sister. She's a master storyteller, but she has a long history of working with, she doesn't like to use the word homeless families, but what is the temporary, anyway, homeless families. And she's brought me into that. So we've done tremendous amount of work doing workshops to help empower these people. It gets too political for me to really talk about, but that experience with Akanke, Reese's sister, really helped to develop our mission even further, in that we go in places where community people live and work, the barbershops, the street corners, homeless shelters, prisons. I think I've been in every prison in New York State.
Wow.
I can tell you, that's a book. Hospitals, you name it. And this is where we get our stories. What can I take from you and give back to you?
Yes.
Or when I was teaching, and I was teaching language arts, I brought in, Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis. Their son, Guy Davis, not only is he a wonderful actor, he's a blues musician, very well-known blues musician. He would come in, and I had the kids, because rap music is the same thing as blues. Blues, a lot of us, the older generation complain how raw rap is, how vulgar. And I'm not, yes, some of the things they calling us bitches and nigga and all like that, I'm not, but you read the blues, listen to the blues, okay? These are people who are frustrated, people who displaced anger, my man done left me. I don't know what to do. Bum, bum. I pulled a 44 and blew him in the head. That's the blues. And if you look at the rap, it's very similar. It's what these young people were doing, they were doing, we were doing during the time when the blues evolved. So I would have the students write, what are your needs in life? What are your basic fundamental needs? Now compare that list to what do you want? How do they differ? Now, what do you dream? And they had these 3 lists. What gets in the way of you getting what you absolutely need? Do you really need those Timberland boots, or do you just need cover for your feet? What gets in the way of you getting what you want? What gets in the way of getting what you dream? The blues. So they would write their own blues papers, and Guy would come in and put music to it. Wow. And they all had to learn the basic blues. And these are regular students. They in an English class.
Yeah.
And they would be getting up there, boom, 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 boom. My mama, my daddy, and Guy would be the one to sing them first. He would put music to them and sing them, So that's how those kinds of experiences laid the groundwork for Blackberry Productions. And we call ourselves a documentary theater company because we get our stories from the community, or we come up with stories from issues that they were curious about. The COP project is in direct response to issues of policing in the community. It's a project that I really wanted to do many years ago. My daughter used to work for an organization that's what they did. They developed relationships with the local police departments and would bring them into schools with young people and develop workshops and community roundtables. And after years of wanting to do that, I only recently did it. And a friend in I don't know what's the name. I can't remember the name of the piece, but a theater company in Oregon, the Red Door. Anyway, they've been doing incredible work with the police. Hands Up, I think I don't want to misname the police piece, but and so I spoke at length with the artistic director of that project. So he was very helpful in giving me some seeds and inspiration. So and that's why I just had to break a contract at the Roundhouse Theater in Bethesda, Maryland, which breaks my heart because we just got a grant from to implement the COP project on its next level. We also got the Black Seed Award. I'm sure you probably heard about that.
No.
The Mellon Foundation, recently, this is during COVID, the Mellon Foundation gave money, and it's called the Black Seed, to Black theater companies throughout the country. And so, you had to go through a rigorous, application process. But Blackberry Productions and New Professional Theater that's run by Sheila K. Davis, we collaborated on this project and we were both funded by Black Seed. And then I got, Council on the Arts money, and we just got awarded another significant grant to carry the project out.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
And that's why I was late for rehearsal, because we had our first series of workshops with youth and police officers in West Harlem.
And so, what takes place within those workshops? Is it creating work what are the workshops? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, the first series of workshops, and I didn't conduct them. We had other facilitators. One of the facilitators was a police officer for 25 years, who's also was on a board of directors of a theater and did facilitation with youth and police for many, many years. But she had also, as a police officer, she came with that, with that perspective. And then, my co-partner with Blackberry Productions, they conducted mainly the workshops, and a concave. Reese's sister did storytelling. I only did one workshop. So in the series, they would do check-ins, they would do warm-ups, they would do theater games that explored very specific issues. They did a lot of questionnaires. They did a lot of role playing, and a lot of discussions. There were young adults in their early 20s who, one guy said, "I hate the police and I didn't want to come here." And he ended up being one of the most active and, so I have a team of writers. I don't know if you know Cassandra Medley. You've probably heard of some of her work. And Candido Terrado, he's been produced at the Guthrie and all like that. We're the team. So we have to develop the script. So we have a lot of material already. And Tamara Tooney is directing it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And of course, she's been on Law and Order for many, many years. But we've been interviewing police officers, a diverse cross-section of police officers, and we've been interviewing young people with different, well, not just young, but people that have had encounters with police, both negative and positive. And we have already created I forget how many, maybe about a half a dozen of monologues so far, So we will continue with that process. We're going to have another series of workshops where this time the police and the young people will actually be doing writing, even as they explore different themes, about policing and community, about perspective, the biases that we all walk into a situation in and don't know it, those hidden biases. And then we're going to do some community roundtables where we have you know, a lot of people in police and, you know, do some monologues and then have people do the ending, you know, have people change. Well, try to approach it from different perspectives. And then hopefully we'll have this wonderful script.
Hey, Stephanie, how important is that, especially at this time right now, to be working with, you know, the police and coming up with these narratives and these discussions? Because sometimes if we look at the media, it just seems like everybody's on so much like a polar opposite of when it comes to dealing with police officers and law enforcement. How important is that to be working in that space, especially at this time?
I don't know. We'll see. But even I mean, we've had only 2 public events. We had like a preview that was only about 50 people could attend because of COVID, and it was Zoom. But the monologues were very well received, and then the workshops. There are people who came because we're working with the New York City Department of Police Department. So they actually, their police officers are getting paid time to do the workshops. And there's some resistance on both sides, but it's interesting. Like I had everyone do a story on their first day of school and their first kiss. And it was interesting how that has nothing to do with the serious issues that we need to confront and explore, but it opened everybody up. Everybody was laughing, and you found universality. People were humanized. You know, you found something common because everyone had a first day of school. Everyone was, 90% of them were nervous that first day of school, so they could laugh with each other. And that's where storytelling can be so powerful. It makes you forget your biases and you see and feel and experience the human track that is in all of us, you know. There were people who were very angry about the police and humanized them. They can't be humanized. I don't want, but again, this is only a small amount. A couple of those people were smiling and laughing, hearing some of the stories of the police officers were very interesting. No one we interviewed actually wanted to be a police officer in the beginning. And to hear some of the struggles that they go through and the fears that they have, I began to see that it's more this system that has indoctrinated them or created regulations that force them into a situation that they wouldn't necessarily choose make that choice. Mm-hmm. So it's more the system than it is the individual cop for a lot of it, you know. There are people we have found out through other cops that, you know, have been in white supremacist organizations and deliberately enter into the police force in order to have a gun, in order to get rid of brown bodies. So we've learned a lot.
Yeah, I bet. I want to switch lanes for a little bit, just for a moment. I want to talk to you about television versus, you know, being live and on stage. What is the difference for you in preparation, or what is the difference in the experience for you?
Well, there's very little preparation in television. I try to apply the same thing, you know, who is this character? What is my back? You know, fortunately, I've been around enough where I can use a lot of my own, you know, life experiences, or certainly people that I've observed, and you can always just use your imagination. So I try to apply the same thing. So you bring a multi-dimensional real human being to any character, be it on television. But television and film is quick. It's much quicker. You know, very few, you know, you might have a read through of the whole script, but you don't have a process where you break it down collectively, have these in-depth discussion, have dramaturgs who bring history and examples. And so you do all that quickly on your own, instantly. Right before coming here, I just did Fantasy Island, and it was just, you know, it was just fun. I mean, I got to stay a month in Puerto Rico at a resort, so that was great.
Okay.
Oh, everyone was so nice. Oh, the dress that I wore, remember the wrap blue dress that you like, the linen dress?
Yes, yes.
That dress, I have you to know, almost was a $300 dress that everyone on Fantasy Island knew I liked it. And I said, oh, can I buy it? When they told me the price, I went, oh, no. Oh, no, that's fine. You keep it. Do you know, right before I came to La Jolla, I got a gift in the mail, and the whole costume department of the, who produced Fantasy Island? Fox? I forget. Anyway.
I think it's Fox.
Yeah. It said the whole costume department, we knew you liked this dress. Enjoy it.
Oh, wow.
Sweet.
Wow. And see, I mean,
but
it pays to be good to people. Like, and people forget that. Like, just be good. They did that for you because you were a good person. And I mean, I've said to you a million times, like, just, it was such a pleasure being in the room with you, getting to watch you work. And every time I told somebody that you were coming to do this show, oh my God, I love Stephanie Berry. I was starting to think that was her name. Oh my God, I love Stephanie.
That was my family.
But everybody,
television and film are quicker. You have to try to, you know, you want to bring, like I said, a full multi-dimensional human being. You want to bring colors. You don't have a live audience. There's a lot of camera people and directors, you know. So it's just you and the other actors, and your focus is different, you know. But it's another world. It's another world. It's amazing. I mean, stage is, of course, harder work. And it's amazing of the financial difference.
Especially crazy.
I bought a new couch with Fantasy Island money. And I bought a new cup with La Jolla money.
Hey, I'm sure you got a tote bag out of the get swag.
Yeah, I did. I got 2 tote bags.
What was your experience like? And Jacole knows I'm going to go here. What was your experience working on Luke Cage? Because you know what? Because Luke Cage is one of my favorite comic book characters. And, you know, sometimes you hear now as some of these new comic book characters that are introduced to the public that are not white, sometimes you hear this backlash. Oh, you guys are just making these characters now. And it's like, nah, I was reading them when I was a kid. Like, I was reading Luke Cage when I was a kid. Right. Black Panther was out before the Black Panther Party was out. So, like, Luke Cage was so important to me when that came out, because I was like, oh, here's this big, beautiful, bald, dark black man, and he's kicking ass, too, on TV. And that was really important to me. Can you give me a little bit of your experience?
I only did one little episode of Luke Cage, and it's a very, very protective set.
Yes.
Very frequently, a lot of the sets that I worked on, when my daughter was little, they would lock me up. I had her in dressing rooms and would get a babysitter in the green room. I've had her tucked in a blanket in the corner somewhere anyway. But a lot of my grandkids always would come on sets. They don't allow anybody around. Yeah. But Alfre Woodard and I hadn't seen each other in a long time. She is so down to earth. And we had made a wonderful connection years ago and stayed in touch for a while and lost touch. But we acted like two little kids on how gorgeous that man is.
I mean,
So I had fun giggling with her, but I wasn't. It's a very protective set, so I didn't have a lot of experience, interacting with anyone but Alfred.
Right.
But is he that pretty in person? Does he look as good?
Yes.
Don't ruin that fantasy for me.
And Alfred Woodard, she was a badass in that show. Like, she was, man, look, that sister was not to be played with. I just love the diversity of the Black characters that were on that show.
Yeah.
Do you see, I mean, just as Ahmed was saying, like, these are characters that have existed forever, but now they're actually getting their research, their just time in the movies, in the TV, whatever. Do you see a change? Have you seen a shift? Because you've been at this a long time. I mean, I love when Ahmed always says, "What's your intro? We're not the other. We're the standard. We're not new to this. We've been here." So you've been around. You've been doing this a long time, and as we've said, in the different mediums, do you feel a shift? Have you seen a shift?
Yeah, I mean, yes, there's a shift, and I have to acknowledge that and give all praises to the shift. But so much is still the same. That's a bit of a struggle and disheartening. And you have to look at your relationship to the means of production and the economy, what makes it. And it's because of technology and how that has grown that particularly people of color and poor whites, their relationship to the means of money and productivity is changed but how much of the mentality has changed is what matters to me even more. And as the words in the garden say, we're dealing with a backlash. It's like someone snatched the hood off of racism in this country, and the so-called party stop playing by the rules.
That's the part where I saw all the white people start to shift and go, "Oh, that's what this play is." Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But no,
that's what I mean by mentality. Things, because the real issue is about money and ownership of the wealth. Who controls the wealth? Who controls the greed? But who controls the wealth? That's what changes law and policy and even race relations. But a lot of people don't realize that, so they're still in the old mentality.
Are you feeling the shift in the mentality?
Me personally? Yes, but it comes with some challenges.
Sure.
Yeah. There's still those battles, right? Like, even though it's almost as if there were so many people who wanted to jump on that change last year, especially last year. Like, of course, there was organizations that were doing this work beforehand. But of course, last year, when everybody wanted to jump on that change, there was it seems like to me, it either fell into a couple of categories. Either you're just doing it because it's a thing to do at the moment, and you were trying to, protect something of yourself. You thought it was the right thing to do, and you jumped out there and did it. But during the way, you didn't realize how hard it was actually going to be. Right. Or how much of your mentality, your old mentality, was going to be exposed.
Exactly.
And I think can I assume like that's kind of, because that's what I see in some of the things, is like people not aware of how deep the battle would go, or how deep within themselves these things they said they wanted to get rid of, and how much it goes beyond race. It goes to behavior. It goes to common kindness. It goes to empathy. It's beyond just the race. It's beyond how you treat people, period. And a lot of people are starting realizing like, oh, we were just treating people bad, period. And then realize it.
But where did that come from? And you have to look at the educational system, not just in the schools, but how this country has educated its people to, plant those seeds of systemic racism that are invisible.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are in all of us. And even Black people perpetuated through a self-hatred and sometimes even antagonistic against our, our own. Well, everybody does that, to extent. That's why I hate the term Black on Black crime. It is white on white crime, Asian on Asian crime. If I want to rob somebody, I'm just going, I don't care what color you go, how much money you got in your pocket. But history will tell you whenever there's a major uprising, people in power will quickly hand out little tokens to quell, the conflict. And so a lot of this, Black Lives Matter, so I'm gonna hire a unqualified Black person, so then I could say 5 years later, see, we tried. I am ecstatic that there are all these Black shows on Broadway. But Broadway has been in existence for over 100 years. Now, all of a sudden, and Broadway is sustained by tourism, white tourism. Broadway has never really invited Black people, no more Black people come, just by the nature of advertisement, the prices. I can't afford a Broadway show. I usually go to a dress rehearsal or some group discount or something.
And that's because you
makes me
to that. People, you knew that was an avenue for you to be able to do it because you had inside information. And so people who are already feeling on the outside, they don't have that insider. So the access is blocked again.
And you could say that about a lot of regional theaters. I went to one, why don't Black people come at one regional theater? I won't mention a name. And I said, well, do you go to their plays? Have you ever been to their church? And you don't invite them. But anyway, back to all the shows on Broadway. I'm going to see all of them. I'm ecstatic, but I'm suspicious. We're at the peak of a pandemic, and now you choose to put up 9 Black shows. The peak of a historic pandemic, the likes of which has not been seen in over 100 years.
Which goes to your point exactly. So then we're going to look at the box office next year when it's time to renew or when it comes to whatever and go, no, look at all these Black plays. They didn't perform. They look at
I hope the opposite happens, but I'm just saying what history does.
No, you're absolutely right.
I wish we had a backup plan. I wish we had been a little more strategic. Anyway.
No, I'm with you. And I didn't even think, now you got me angry because I didn't even think of that it's like, no, we're going to put them all at the time where people aren't coming to the theater anyway. And then we're going to judge the outcome of it all.
Right.
See,
and it's also at a time, not only are just, in general, people are scared of coming to the theater, but with so many of the COVID regulations, which knocks out such a big part of theater, is that children aren't allowed in these spaces. So because of the COVID policies and because of the vaccination rules that we all have in place, because that's what it is. But I've always talked about that when these things went in place. I'm like, wow, do you know how big of a deal that is that children aren't allowed in these spaces? That cuts off so much of the audience. That cuts off so many people who would bring their kids to a production or kids who would be in the production. That just cuts off so much. It's like you're saying, is it going to be, at the end of the year? Oh, we'll see. We try, without the caveat that like, well, nobody was going anywhere anyway. Everybody's sales were down anyway, and so I understand. I feel you with that suspicion because we do see it happening, right? The mainstream media, you see Broadway's back, but when you get in our industry periodicals, we see the problems that are brewing underneath with Broadway coming back or shows that were coming back and they had to be like, you know what? We had to cancel this production because we couldn't get the thing right with making sure we had enough people of diversity in the cast, which is not exactly that hard. But, so it's just like you're saying, there's all these things that make you on the front, they look great. But when you get down into the atmosphere of it, it's like, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, quit thinking theater and performing arts is just this beautiful kumbaya, beautiful place where people come and do plays and they dance. It's just great. Like, no, we got all the problem. We got all the sexism, the racism, it's all here, just like it is in every other corporate entity.
That's right.
Which is why we have this show and talk about it, so people understand.
Yeah, you got us all silent on that one. You should have got us all. We're like, yeah.
Well, you know what? And Stephanie, can I get your thoughts on this? Because lately I've been feeling that a lot of the problems that we've had, we've always talked about as Jacole, is like some theaters, how are you going to be diverse if your whole board is white and wealthy? So if your whole board is white and wealthy, and then you're hiring your upper management, they're all white and wealthy, and that just trickles down. How do you affect, diversity to trickle down into your staff and onto the stage? And my thing is that it seems like I've noticed over the years that like the creative process, the process of being creative and working together, all that seems to end at the rehearsal hall. Like the creative process of putting a team together ends at the rehearsal hall. And then when it's time to get into administrative, we're like following the corporate model. You know what I mean? Like as if creativity is not supposed to keep going all the way through a creative organization. You know what I mean?
There have been a lot of theaters that have been in communities that are very diverse, and the theater has not reflected that, not only in the work that they choose or the actors, but in the administrative and the boards. And there have been many that have acknowledged it and are seeking and have begun to diversify boards of directors, and boards of trustees and administrative staff. So that's another shift that is happening. But that, when you think of diversify, you go right to, I'll hire a couple of Black people or Latinx to be in a play, and, it stops there. And one thing that's also disheartening about stage is how every other industry, you get raises when you have longevity. In theater, you have these letter of agreements where everyone gets the same salary. So I get paid, I've been doing this for 25 years, and someone just got out of school and we get the same salary. And that would not impact, you don't need more money. It's shifting the money. I did a play where I was making about $400 a week, and my pants, I was playing someone who lived in the woods. I never washed, I lived in the woods. So they had to distress everything I wore. I had designer pants. Fortunately, I was able to keep them for $700 and boots for $350. And they had to distress them all with no one, the costume designer didn't have to get a penny less. All they had to do was shop at Goodwill or sell at I live in the woods. So sometimes it's just shifting money, but I find it very antiquated and very odd that actors still live under that. Nobody lives under that kind of pay structure. You've been at a job for 10 years, you get a little raise, anyway.
No, now you got my wheels turning. I'm like, is that the difference between equality and equity? That's
not a issue of diversity.
I don't mean it in the buzzword sort of way. I'm more thinking about in the actual terms of life and fairness and equality is the union saying that everybody should make the same amount. This is what you are members of the union. This is the minimum amount. But equity, and maybe equity isn't the right word. And so maybe it just, I hear you. I'm hearing it in a different way. I'm hearing it. Like I'm so institutionalized, and there's a moment every episode of We Are Listening where I'm like, damn, I'm an institution girl. But I think that you just sort of blew my mind, because I've always been like, no, that's why we have the unions. They protect and the union sets it. And as an institution, we get to in some ways hide behind the union and go, well, that's what the union says, and the union's there to protect you, so it must be for your benefit.
That's one of the reasons that I'm pulling back from theater, and I plan to get more involved in the union. But that is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah,
because it's such an antiquated, unfair, economic structure.
Yeah.
So that goes back again to like creativity of thought, right? Like even if when you get away from the unions and all that, again, that goes back to where that creativity of thought stops at a certain level, because that's a creative thought. Like, and it's not even, and like you're saying, that what you said is it is mind blowing, but it's so simple at the same time. Like, it's mind blowing that we've been doing this for so long, and like you said, Jacole, these are the things that settle in institute because we've just been doing it. We've just been doing it this way. But again, what you're saying is revolutionary and really simple at the same time. And those simple thoughts that you present in meetings every day and you talk about are revolutionary. They blow people's minds because they're so simple, because we've been doing all this stuff one way that came out of a corporatized background. I'm not going to get, because Jacole, I'm going to end up going back to the New Deal and the Theater Act and all that. We ain't got time for all that. I know.
Exactly. We ain't got time for that.
But that's exactly what you're saying, Stephanie. Like both you and Jacole, that is such a revolutionary thing, but damn, it's such a simple thing as well.
It is. So I will promise to get more involved in the union. I am trying to focus more on writing because they're back to what Aisha said years ago about having more control over your own culture. So I feel very fortunate, though I'm a little nervous about the cop or police. Do you know the Ensemble Theater in Texas, Jacole? Okay, they're doing my play on facts about Sarah Vaughan, but the story is about the struggle of my brother and sister-in-law, who have one of the most unusual marriages that I've ever seen. And they're both in their 80s. They've been married over 60-something years. And they still go out dancing and then have to go to the emergency room because they were out. And the struggles they went through, coming up in the projects, getting married young, and jazz, my brother always says, was the soundtrack of his life. So the play shows how jazz music and its vibrations really, intersected with their daily lives and how it motivated and inspired them. So anyway, that's the other piece that I'm working on. And there's because my brother was politically active. And so there's a large section on that, and you hear jazz, So anyway, they're doing that at the Ensemble Theater in Texas.
I love it. What else? Because we're just about out of time. Every conversation that I have with you is just such a joy, and I want to go on and on. But what else are you working on, Stephanie? What else should the people know?
Well, those two things, that's what I'm writing, those two things. And that's full time right now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And of course, my village of sisterhood,
Yes. I'm sure my invitation will arrive in the mail just as soon as you're
when you come to New York, you will meet them when you come to New York.
Oh,
they were going to come to San Diego.
Really? No,
they were going to come.
I just want to hang out. I want to be a fly on the wall. I'll come there. You come here. I just make it happen.
They can be a little loud sometimes.
I can do loud. you saw me all professional and shit. I had to have on my Playhouse pass. Yeah.
Stephanie, we know it's getting to be 10 o'clock your time. We don't want to keep you any longer, but man, this has been a spectacular conversation, and
thank you.
We want you to come back. We know you're busy, but we want to get in touch with you in a little bit of a while and come back and continue this conversation with us. This has been a delight. It's been a spectacular conversation for us to come back off of hiatus. I really appreciate you, period, and I appreciate you joining us tonight. We really do appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye, Jacole.
You're such a joy. Such a joy. And thank you, everybody. As always, thanks for listening.
All right.
Jacole, thank you again. We back in the house. We got it. We back moving. So you guys, again, just be ready. We're going to be coming with more episodes in 2 weeks. We'll be doing We Are Listening Notes. I'll be talking to you about Lorraine Hansberry and social justice. Won't be a long episode. It'll probably be like 10 or 15 minutes. Just touch on Lorraine Hansberry and just a little bit of her background and maybe some surprising things you didn't know about her that led to her social justice and her writing. And then we'll be back next month with another guest. And again, if you have questions about guests, think someone should be a guest, you can email me, adents@sdrep.org. You can email Jacole at Kitchen at ljp.org. There you go. Email us and we will get back to you. We kind of busy, so sometimes it might take an hour, a couple hours, maybe 2 days to get back at you. But we will get back at you. Again, everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for coming back. We appreciate it. And we will see you next time right here on We Are Listening. Again, thank you very much, Stephanie. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye. I'll see you. I'm waiting for my wine.
I just got the delivered receipt.
Yeah.